Welcome to No Gate Fees with Brent Martineau on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network.
Preseason for us too here on No Gate Fees. Oh, man, you didn't want to go clean right out of the rip? You wouldn't want to just fire that open again, Hamby? Did you make these bad calls at Covenant yesterday on your pitch calls? My goodness. We're looking at a little high school baseball action from last night. Providence and Creekside, two of the better teams we think in the area, but we don't know what will take place in 2025. Happy No Gate Fees season. Happy baseball season. Happy softball season. Brent Martineau along with Jason Hamby. And we'll get to the coach in just a moment. We got a coach on the show now. He's producing the show, too. He's with us for a second year. Good to have Hamby here. And we'll have Jonathan Murphy in on the show today from Trinity Christian. They are hands down, I don't think anybody would argue, the team to beat in the area. They're the best team in the area, but boy, they play some tough competition, and we have some great competition in baseball. Baseball season started today, or this week, on Monday. We've already got a couple games in the books. Softball season is in its preseason this week, and then they will get going next week. So why the early start for baseball season? We'll get into that in just a moment. If you're new to the show, we've been doing this now for a few years, really, and there's a heavy emphasis on high school baseball and high school softball, but there's also an emphasis on talking points in youth sports, and that could be a younger age, high school age, maybe even the college age. And what we did this year is we asked coaches, what topic would you like to talk about? And so we're still getting some of those in, but it's been pretty fun to listen to some of the topics, and I think we'll have some good ones going on this year. I wasn't going specific topic for youth sports today. What I wanted to do is just catch everybody up on where we stand, because there have been some rule changes on the FHSAA level in high school baseball and softball, and I think pretty significant, really both of the major changes, and especially one I think we really like. Listen, we are not here to just criticize everything that goes on in youth sports or the FHSAA. From time to time, we do. That does happen. This is a little bit of it's a safe place for everybody to talk about it, to vent about it, to what you do in your cul-de-sac or at the hotel in a travel ball tournament or whatever you're texting back and forth with other parents. That's kind of what this is. So it's for parents and moms and dads. For kids, we'll highlight some kids. For coaches as well. And obviously, what we really want to do is shine a light on the local baseball and softball scene. It's near and dear to our heart. Me, kids playing. I used to play ball as well, but we think the area is loaded with a lot of talent. And Jason Hamby coaches now at Covenant, which is a brand new program in the area, playing varsity for the first time. Got first varsity win on Tuesday night, 17-2. He's the pitching guy, so 2 runs on that side. Pretty good. You guys must be smiling there at Covenant today, Coach Ross and you.
Let the other team put the ball in play. The team motto, if they swing, we win.
Very good. I like that. And that's a good motto in probably softball and baseball, but especially in baseball. You throw strikes, you field it, you're pretty good. Even the hot-hitting teams don't sit there and score 7-8 runs a game in high school baseball. It just does not happen. You can have some of the best teams in the area. The pitching's usually pretty good, and you're going to get a 4-2 ball game. Mm-hmm. You know, if it's a good one. Like last night, Providence and Creekside, it was 2-1. And I think those teams are both lighter on the hitting side this year, so that might prevail, but 2-1 is not that uncommon in high school ball. Bowls on Monday won a game 6-2 over St. John's Country Day. So that was a highlight of 2 of the premier programs in the league and in the area. We will have our high five power polls later. Just for baseball this week, we'll get into softball next week. But kind of our first poll, preseason poll, if you will, because obviously games are just being played. And we gathered this from some coaches. We put our own little twist on it, too. And we are going to do public school and private school. That's what we started last year because it would just be dominated, we thought, with the private schools. You can sneak public schools in. They can beat the private schools. But I think if we did a poll, mostly would be private school heavy, specifically in baseball. So we're going to do both. And then halfway through the year and then at the end of the year, we'll bring in kind of like this overall poll too. Like, would you rank Clay High School in the mix of the top 5 schools in with some of the other private schools? So we'll do a little bit of that. Here's what else we do on the show. We do Committed to the Uncommitted. And we're really proud of this program, and we really need your help, coaches, to help highlight the kids And one of the things I did this year is put a one sheet out to a lot of different coaches, and we haven't done that to everybody yet, but I'm getting through all that. And you can highlight some of the juniors and seniors. We usually save this for seniors in football, but because seniors in baseball season, here we are in February, a lot of them know where they're going. Or maybe they've chosen not to play because they didn't get recruited. Now, still, some hold out hope, so we want to make it available for them and highlight them and push their name out there and get coaches interested in them. But we also are going to do this for juniors, but we want the under-recruited juniors. If you're this guy getting 12 Power 4 offers, we really, good for you, but we don't, this isn't for you. that committed to the uncommitted program is not for you. So send us those any way you can. Obviously, coaches will continue to hound you on that, but we really want to make that difficult. We want there to be a lot of kids in the mix. Maybe we get to the point where we highlight a couple each show. And we have a $2,500 scholarship program as part of this, too, courtesy of Nimnik Buick GMC. And we'd even love to get more folks involved in the scholarship part out so we can give more. So we continue to grow that part of it. Football season, this one in spring season with baseball and softball. And who knows, someday, maybe we'll grow it into other sports. We've had some people knock on our door about that, but we want to make sure we know the world we're living in really well, and we feel like we've got football and baseball and softball covered right now. Maybe we do get to basketball and others down the road, and we only have so much money at the moment to be able to deliver. So it's twofold. One, scholarship at the end of the day, and if you're not helping your kid try to get that, then what are you doing, right? I mean, that's really why you should send us the name and try to push your kid toward us to highlight them. But we really want them to be seen by other college coaches and have an opportunity to play at the next level if they really want to continue that dream, and at any level, and find a place. And it's the toughest time to do that. We all know that. If you're listening to this show, the last couple of years, and this year too, it is the most difficult time to go try to play college sports that's ever existed. Ever. Like, that is not hyperbole. That is reality. And so let's try to do our part and help the kids. That's really the main goal of Committed to the Uncommitted. We'll highlight some of the kids from last year and tell you where some of them are at. It's been nice to see that. That's what I love about it, that you see, okay, who knows if we had a part in it. I'm not taking credit for it. We're not taking credit for it. But even if we did a little bit to help get people exposed to college coaches, the thing that we really like is when they do find a home. And not everybody does find a home, but pretty good so far this year, at least that we were able to follow up on from last year's Committed to the Uncommitted. We're also going to do something a little bit added to the show this year. We do this on Action Sports Jack's Primetime on CBS 47 and Fox 30 on Saturday nights. Marcel Robinson does this. So I'm going to extend it a little bit into the baseball and softball world, and we're going to call it Action Sports Jacks on Campus. And we'll highlight some of the kids that have moved on to the next level and that we can see how they're doing and check them out and how their career's going and how their week went, or if they had a big game, or where they're playing and who they're playing with, all those things. And we have a ton of those. So if you want one of your former players, if you're a mom and dad and you want your kid highlighted where they're at, send us those. The easiest way to do it is sports@actionnewsjacks.com. I'll kill the other guys' inboxes in our office, but that's fine. We will be glad to take them. Any suggestions, and we don't know every kid, but we do want to highlight as many as we can here on this show. So we will do that on No Gate Fees, presented by Nimnik Buick GMC, Baker Sports, and Perfect Rack Billiards. And speaking of Perfect Rack Billiards, how cool is this? Corey Goff and the guys over there at Perfect Rack Billiards will tell you all about them and what you can do. They've offered to give us a $100 gift card each and every week, starting next week on the show, for a Coach of the Week. Hamby, you're not
I'm exempt.
eligible.
I'm not eligible.
You're not the head man anyway. So, but I guess it wouldn't have to be a head coach, but we'd probably figure it would be a head coach. And the idea behind that is, hey, get you a $100 gift card and have a night out. You do a lot of work. We know you don't get paid all the money you probably should, so go have a good night out with family or maybe the coaching staff or whatever else, a buddy or two. So we will highlight that. One winner, baseball, softball, but we'll want some nominees there too, if you want some folks. So we really want this to be interactive, right? We want to highlight the sports. We want to highlight the people, the coaches, the players, everybody else. But you got to help us. That's it. We want this to be interactive and hopefully educational as well for kids that are just coming into high school. Just had our kids go right through this whole phase. I can give you a lot that happened with us, but that doesn't mean our story is the same as your story. It's not blanket. It changes. And then now I can help you a little bit with the transition into the freshman year. Ty's playing at Flagler. He's redshirted. Kaylee's playing down at Daytona State. I'm learning more about junior college softball than I've ever imagined. I really have. I didn't know a lot about it. And so glad to help you in any way we can, at least give you what our experience is. Doesn't mean it will be your experiences, but the kids are having a great experience so far at the places they are. So hopefully your kid will do the same. So that's what we've got. We also have maybe some games to watch that we'll highlight, especially as the season goes along, and keep just shining the light on baseball and softball. All right, Hamby. Before we get into the FHSAA changes and the big one, there's a real big one in baseball. But tell us a little bit about Covenant, because this is first time in varsity. Are we seeing more of these pop up? Because we know the familiar names from the private schools of Trinity Christian, St. John's Country Day, Episcopal, Bowles. I can go on and on. Then we know like St. John's County, loaded with talent at the public school level. Then you've got Clay, right, and Oakleaf. And, hey, keep an eye on Keystone Heights, by the way. I think what I've heard overall is Duval is from a public school standpoint, is maybe doesn't have a premier team. That's what some folks are telling me. I don't know that yet. I'm just hearing, okay, maybe not as strong as some other years. Like First Coast has been really good the last couple of years. Sandalwood has had some nice runs. I don't think that's the case so far. Atlantic Coast had been on the come up a little bit. Could they make some noise this year? And we'll learn about some of these other teams too. And hopefully, out of nowhere, we see a team. I've actually heard a lot of good things about Baldwin this year. I think they have a good squad out there this year, and it gave Providence a run in the preseason. So that might be a nice story. So you tell us about some of these stories. We're not boots on the ground everywhere, but we'll be the messenger, and we'll find out as the season goes along. But what about Covenant, and how many of these new places are popping up with all charter schools and everything else that we've got going on in the Jacksonville area?
Yeah, at least for Covenant, it's a school that's probably been around for, I think, about a decade or so, maybe a little bit more. It's had a middle school baseball team for 2-3 years and never had a varsity team. They're really expanding, and so this year is their first year having a varsity baseball program. So I'm grateful to be on that staff, and it's easier now than ever, as people can imagine, to be able to compete if you're a first year. Because you think about forever ago, everything's got to be homegrown as could possibly be.
Yeah,
that's just not the case. So there's a lot of pros for us in that facet, and we've got a bunch of great kids. So it's going to be an exciting year. We have pretty high expectations, that's for sure.
Yeah, you can do it pretty quick, and you can flip it. And I mean, I really think about, I want to say St. John's Country Day. I know the most recent history of them, but I don't know like the long-term history. But Tom Lucas and St. John's Country Day, they basically had a team that they had put together, I think, over at FCA in a travel ball team. And a lot of those kids committed to go play at St. John's Country Day.
Right.
And they were good, like immediately, because it was a really good squad. I think they had won Cooperstown even as 12-year-olds. And not every one of them, I think, but a lot of them. And I'm pretty sure that's really where like St. John's Country Day started to elevate baseball-wise. And now look, they're one of the top programs in the area, in the state, and at times they have been in the country. They're the defending state champs, of course, last year. They got it done. So you can do it fast. One of the topics that we will get into here on the show might make Hamby a little bit uncomfortable, but we will talk. Here's one of the feedback that I get: public school, private school. And so how much angst is there in the community, in the area, in the state when it comes to the baseball, softball scene, maybe even opposed to the basketball or football scene when you're talking about public school and private school? That will be a topic on the show. We may touch it a little bit today with our guests, but probably deeper dive in the coming weeks on that topic because, quite frankly, I'm a public school guy back home in Rhode Island. Like, it used to be a big thing. Like, I get it. Used to be a really big thing. And now I've got an appreciation for it probably more than I did when I was there, because I was like, hey, you want to beat those guys, right? Those private school guys. And we had a small state now. So, like, you didn't have a ton of – we have 70 schools in the area. I want to say Rhode Island at the time had like 46 schools in the state. So it's totally different. But the point of the conversation is, are we going to get to a point where we divide, where we go public school and private school in terms of our competition? And do we need to? So I think that's kind of the bigger one. But to your point, in the private school world, at a place like Covenant, you can flip it pretty quick in a sport like baseball. The other thing is you don't need huge numbers, right? Like, this isn't football. It's a harder thing to do in football because the numbers, you need to be pretty big, right? You need to have depth. You need some numbers, but you don't need all the numbers. You probably wish you had a few more right now.
Yeah, we do.
Right, in year one. But, hey, the bottom line is this. You guys are coaching. Kids are learning. Kids are getting experience. You know, we can wrestle with some of these topics, what we like and don't like. But I think at the overall end of the day, hopefully it's a good experience. It'll be good for you guys, good for them. And we'll keep an eye on coming 1-0.
That's right, 1-0, baby.
Undefeated. Only undefeated team in school history.
Yep.
Right now in the area. You've got that to carry on. Who do you play next?
We got Stanton tomorrow, and we make the trek out to Bradford Friday.
All right, that'll be an interesting one. So yeah, you'll get. It'll be fun to watch. See how that goes for you. All right, the biggest change in high school baseball: best 2 out of 3 in the regional rounds. This is easy, but this is due. We've been begging for it. I think coaches have been begging for it. They have this in Georgia. How do you get a little bit more like Georgia, right? Because we try to say that a lot in high school sports. So hats off to the FHSAA. Nice job. I think this was good. What it did, though, is you move up the season. You kind of shrink the 25 games, get into a smaller window. So now I think you're going to see more games. That puts a little more emphasis on the pitching staff. But the idea of this thing, they've really changed. You go back to Hunter Barco and Bowles, he was throwing once a week and dominating and getting them to the Final Four. Well, then they switched it up a little bit where you really had to have like 2 arms to get through, most likely, because you were going to play twice in a 3 or 4 day stretch. That's the way it's been for the last few years. Well, now in the regionals, it's going to be best 2 out of 3. And I think that will really help. I mean, it just is year to year, right? Cyclical. It could help you one year, not help you another year. I know the folks down at Creekside High School wishes it was like that last year.
Yeah.
Because when they got rained out after 4.5 innings, you would prevent something like that. To go to the state Final Four, they shortened the game because of rain. And it was like, I think it was a 3-1 game at the time. So I am not here back another year to complain about that. But I think this is an impact of that. I think that's one of the reasons. It wasn't the only reason. But now you can avoid a little bit of that because you're going to play a best of 3. So even if you had to go finish the game at the next day or whenever the rain cleared, you were going to get game 2 in anyway. And listen, I'll say to you, I was very close with that Creekside team. My kid played on it. I'm not sure they got out of the first round or second round if it was best out of 3. You don't know, right? Because you win the game, but would you have won the other 2? So it does work both ways, but I think this solves that issue because that was a bad deal. Like that was a deal you didn't want, and you can go back to last year's shows and we'll complain about it, forever. But that shouldn't happen, and we knew that it shouldn't happen that way. We even saw it in football this year that there were some delays because of weather, and they went back and completed the games in the playoffs. It's like, well, wait, you didn't do that in baseball, but you did it in football. So it takes that away, and the best of 3, you figure the better teams are winning. And now if you have a deeper staff, obviously, that really will prevail. So hats off to the FHSAA for that. The big one on the softball side, from what I understand, is because of some of the numbers at some of the places where JV is a problem, and you don't have like 30-plus people playing in your program, so you might not be able to field a JV team. And so it gets tricky scheduling-wise, who has JV, who doesn't. Well, they have put a rule in place that you can play JV and varsity in the same day. So that's new. Now, you still, I think, have to only get your allotted 25 games total. Mm-hmm. And then the one other catch to that is you can't pitch or catch in both games. So, like, you could be a DH in a game and then come and pitch or catch. But you can't pitch in the JV game and pitch in the varsity game. So, as far as I understand it, that's the rule. And I think those are the 2 big changes. There might be some other subtle things, but the playoff system in baseball is really going to change. And by the way, I would be an advocate for some other changes. Like in softball, I still think it's really dumb that in the playoffs, in the 8th inning, they put a runner on second base, Texas tiebreaker. Like, you're going to get ties in softball. And they got a lot of them in last year's playoffs and championship games, and you're putting a runner on second and changing the game. I don't like that. I think that should change. I think they should play another couple innings, and then if you get to the 10th, well, then maybe you can do that. But at least you gave 2 chances to win in the extra innings the right way. Softball goes quicker to begin with anyway. I really think there should be more momentum to change that rule. Did not like that at all. And by the way, I'm pretty sure Baker County lost that way, and maybe University Christian lost that way last year because of the runner on second. Now, listen, they get the opportunity too, but it does change the way you play that inning in the most important inning of your year. And I don't love that. So I didn't like that last year. The other thing I will say about my FHSAA friends, and I'll encourage them to do this, and I don't think it's up there yet, they have a YouTube channel, and they're doing some more content there. I like it. They're having some episodes where they have conversations with athletic directors and other people. They have some tutorial things on some of the bylaws and rules that are taking place in high school sports. I really like it, but I'm going to go back to last year, and I'm going to say what I said last year. They need to be more transparent. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think you need me to tell you the rules. You should be able to go to FHSAA.com, and it's not crystal clear on their website, and it's not crystal clear on YouTube what the rule changes are, what the format for playoffs is. When do they come out with the rankings? How do they use the Max Preps rankings versus the FHSAA rankings? Because they're not the same. So I really have tried to push and will continue to push. And I've offered my here. I'll do it for you. You tell me what to say, and I'll be the message. We can tape it right here. But I think for moms and dads and coaches and kids, they should know easily what they're playing for and what the format is and what the rules are. And they do change quite a bit. So the FHSAA, I think they're doing some good things. They're trying to figure out. It's a hard job. There's a lot going on in a lot of different sports in a big state. But I would encourage them to be as transparent as possible about things like this, just real simple. You could do a 2-minute video on, hey, this is why baseball's different this year. This is why we're starting a week early. This is where we're ending. Like, this is why the schedule changes. All those things. Easy. And same thing for softball. And then we'll get to the point when they do those, like, when do the rankings come out? How do they matter? What are significant? Like, you've got to educate people on this stuff. You can't assume everybody knows. Heck, we're in the thick of it sometimes, and we don't know. We're kind of guessing here or there. There should be an easier way to know, especially when rules change a lot. It does it in all the sports, and it does it here in baseball and softball as well. So anyway, that's my monologue on the FHSAA, but I do applaud them for some of the changes that they're making on the softball side and the baseball side, and hopefully they keep some of that momentum going to some more possible good changes, and keep listening to the coaches. The coaches, they're into this thing. They care about it, and I think they know a lot about it. So hopefully they'll keep doing that. Brent Martineau here, Jason Hamby here, and I think we have our guest in. It's Jonathan Murphy, the Trinity Christian Academy Conquerors head baseball coach, and there he is. He's joining us from campus. Coach, you can hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Great to see you, and thanks for taking a few minutes here on our debut show of No Gate Fees. This was an easy one. You guys are like one of the top teams in the state. You're loaded with talent again, and you must love what you have coming in this spring.
Yeah, we're excited for this group. Like you said, the talent's always awesome, and it's great to have as a coach. The guys been working really hard, which is the most fun part about it. They show up ready to work every day. It's a good group. They get along really well. They like hanging out together outside of the field. So when you can get a group together like that, they hold each other accountable each and every day. It makes it a lot of fun as a coach to be able to show up with that environment every day with those guys.
How is this team? I mean, you guys were good last year. You had a lot of this team from last year. So how have you put this thing together? How have you added to it? And what makes it different from a year ago when you guys also were one of the best teams in the state for most of the year?
Yeah, I think you get a year under your belt for these guys. Helps a lot. You know, a lot of them are sophomores last year. Aaron Watson was a junior on the mound for us. He got a full year of varsity under his belt. So him as kind of being a senior leader of our staff, I think is really big. You know, the high school transfer portal is always active. It giveth and taketh. And so we had a couple leave, couple come in. Parker Lowe moved from Sarasota. He was at IMG last year. He's an infielder committed to LSU, a really good player. Great kid. It's meshed really well with our team. Chris Reale's a pitcher utility player for us as well that came in. So I think, you know, those two guys coming in will help a lot. And then, you know, with the guys that we had coming back last year, and I think they learned what it looks like to go through a full high school season. It's just different. These guys play high level travel ball and all that's great, but the emotional energy I think that a high school game takes is so much different than going to a travel ball tournament. And so they learned that on any given Tuesday night, you can lose to anybody. And we experienced that last year. I think it was good for us. It was humbling for us to experience that. There's so many good teams in our area. Every time you line this thing up at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday night, you can get beat by anybody in this area. And I think in this day of baseball, you look across and everyone, these commits and this and that, and everyone kind of on paper says, well, this team's going to win the game. That's not how high school baseball works. And that's what makes high school baseball great. On any given night, anybody can beat anybody. And so that's what's really cool about it. And I think they got to experience that and live it a little bit last year. And so I'm hoping that we matured and grew from those experiences.
How much do they feel that? How much do you guys feel that? I mean, when you have a team like this, when you do have all those commits, it's hard not to mention it and say it. Even in my position, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, that's a lot of talent. That's a tough team to beat. So everybody is going to line up against the Conquerors and feel the same way, but they really want to beat you. And Bowles has experienced this for years in like every sport, right? And the good teams have that, from Duke to the Yankees to everybody else. What's that like? How do the kids handle that?
I think that's what a great opportunity, right? That every night you're hopefully going to get everybody's best bullet. And that's what you should want. If you're an elite competitor, I want whatever the other team's best is. And we want to take that on and take that challenge. So we know that if we're able to come out on top, that we got your best punch that you're able to throw. And it challenges us to have to go out there and try to throw our best punch every night. That we can't just kind of coast and go through the motions and expect to go out and win baseball games. And I think it kind of comes back to just locking in on the process too. Like, no matter who you're playing, there are certain things that we've got to take care of each and every day, regardless of opponent and what we think about them. And it kind of encourages us and holds us accountable to that as well.
Jason Hamby's a Providence guy. You got a question for your Providence guy?
Coach, you got a loaded district here with the kind of realignment here. How have you navigated that? But also, you kind of stacked your schedule with out-of-town teams that everybody kind of knows are perennially great in baseball in this state. So how have you navigated the art almost that it is of schedule making as a high school baseball coach?
It really is an art this year. You touched on our district. The district's unbelievable. Just the stack there at the top, the four. It's interesting nowadays. The district definitely matters, and it's cool to have a strong district. But a lot of times you're almost looking more at the region. And just having those teams in our region makes it a really difficult region. I think we could arguably end up with 4, to 5 teams out of our district going into the region, which is kind of crazy that you could have that happening from one district. So it's a super challenging region for sure. You talk about the scheduling. Yeah, I wanted to challenge the guys as much as we can. We want to go out. We talk about playing the top competition. That includes locally. There's so many good teams trying to play the best teams we can in the area, and trying to challenge ourselves a little bit on a national scale as well, and see how we line up and stack up. And maybe that prepares you for a hopeful playoff run there at the end, where you get tested a little bit and maybe you lose a few games along the way. That might be part of it. But you learn from that, and by challenging yourself and doing that. And I messed up a little bit on our schedule this year. So you may have noticed we're not playing any games this week. So
I saw that.
beat.
Yeah.
I got beat. I thought the FHSAA was going to go to 28 games. And so I scheduled a tournament this week for 3 games. Well, they went to 25 games still, and so we got stuck with no games. So that was on me. So talk about the art of scheduling. Missed on that one.
A lot of scrimmaging going on there at Trinity Christian this week then, right?
Yes. Come on out if you want to see a scrimmage today at 4 o'clock.
Hey, seriously, go down the list of guys, because you have so many, and you can update me. I mean, your whole lineup basically looks like they're committed Power 4-wise. Do you even know? I mean, you have so many. You just mentioned Parker Lowe. Again, that's a guy that moved in from, I think you said, Sarasota. He's an LSU guy. Jordan Martinez, shortstop, commits to LSU over the winter, I think it was. Who else? Give us your other guys that are going places.
Yeah, Aaron Watson is going to Virginia, right-handed pitcher for us. He's got a chance. He's in some draft conversations this year. As a high school righty, it's always tough to differentiate yourself. But, he's 6'5". He's 1994, touched 95, throws a ton of strikes. Merrick Beamish is with us as well, committed to Dyersburg State. We've got Griffin Edenfield's a senior. He's committed to Erskine College. I've got a list pulled up here to make sure I don't forget anybody. Okay.
Yeah, don't forget anybody.
Aiden Arnett, Virginia Tech commit for us. He can play all over the field. Ethan Wheeler's a two-way guy, committed to Florida. Be a pitcher for us on the mound, play some outfield for us. Tyler Ellis is another two-way that's committed to Florida, left-handed pitcher, play first base for us. Mentioned Chris Reale earlier. He's just recently committed to UNF, so swoop. There you go. And then Parker, you mentioned Jordan Martinez. Gage Petrutz is a catcher for us who's committed to Alabama, and he'll play some outfield. And then Braden McKee, who was actually committed to the Uncommitted last year, ended up over there with Ty at Flagler next year. So we're excited for him. I think it's going to be a really good fit and opportunity for him as well. And then Brennan Bachtel will be throwing some innings for us out of the pen, can kind of catch, play corner spots as well. He's not committed yet, but he's an arm for us that I think is going to be really help us out of the bullpen. 87, 89 guys, touch 90, 91, good breaking ball. And he's come a long way for us. I think he's going to be a big contributor as well.
How do you write a lineup? How do you, I mean, seriously, that sounds like the easiest lineup to write, but I think it's actually works the opposite way, doesn't it? Like you got to keep, moms and dads and kids and team and everybody aligned and happy, and this is about winning on a Tuesday night or a Friday night and winning a state championship and all those things. This isn't about how good you think you are because you're going to a Power 4 school. Like isn't that a trickier thing than probably people feel?
Yeah, I think it can be. I think I touched on it earlier. These guys, a lot of them have been together for a long time. So I think that helps. Some of them have been playing together since they were 13, 14, 15 years old. And we try to talk about it like you've got to check your ego at the door whenever you're here. You're in a room full of dudes. And I think they embrace that challenge, competing with each other as much as competing with other teams. We touched on today, we're going to scrimmage today. That will be a highly competitive scrimmage. There might be a little bit of trash talk going on whenever we're out there. Like they like to go head to head with each other. And we like that environment. I think that environment's making them better. And they've done a really good job of embracing that competitive environment. At the same time, checking your ego at the door. I told you not forgetting about Gerard Flowers, another guy for us. He's a sophomore. I think he's going to be a Division I guy. He's been playing a lot of second base for us as well. And he's fighting to try to get in the lineup every day right now. And he's a really high level player. I think he's got a chance to be Division I, potentially Power 4 type player. And so that's the environment that's been created. And I think they just embraced that. It's really credit to the boys and the mentality they show up with every day. And just they want to win. They really do. At the end of the day, they all want to win really bad. And so they're willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish that goal.
That's good stuff. Jonathan Murphy with us here on No Gate Fees, Trinity Christian Academy coach. They'll have a big target on them, but there's a ton of talent in that district, in the region, in this area. It's just really amazing just how much talent is around here. Your brother, obviously, Daniel, was an Inglewood guy. You're a Providence guy. How do you feel about, and you get the whole area, and you care about baseball in this whole area. How do you feel about this whole public school, private school thing? And are we getting farther and farther apart there? How do you view it as now obviously a head coach of a private school?
Yeah, that's a really interesting conversation. I can understand, right, the desire to maybe split the two. The resources aren't always the same. The opportunities aren't always the same. I think the state's not as far away from splitting them with the way that the classifications line up. There's only a few of them really that have overlap now. So I don't think it's a overly drastic thing for the state to do. Like if you look at 2A baseball, well, now 1A, sorry, I've got them all mixed up in mind. And 2A essentially is exclusively private now, I think would be pretty fair. 3A is heavy private with, I believe, like a Baldwin, West Nassau, Fernandina type school can get into 3A. And then 4A might have the most overlap. You'll get your really big private schools sometimes in 4A, but that's few and far between. Talking about like maybe a Jesuit out of Tampa type private school. So you're not that far off from saying, hey, 1A to 3A, you're private. Divvy up the private schools there equally. And then, 4A to 7A is public schools from there. I don't think it would be a challenging thing to take on. I don't know there'd be a lot of pushback on it either from it. I would definitely be on board with it and wouldn't have any pushback on it.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because my kid went to Creekside. I love playing the private schools because I love this about travel ball. I love playing the top competition. Like that's what travel ball really to me is really cool about is you'll go see some top level stuff if you go to Atlanta, Fort Myers, wherever you're going to play. Well, you get that in Jacksonville. But I also understand if I was in 3A and I got like no chance to win a state championship because you're loaded with all these teams, that's a tricky thing. So I think what you're saying makes some sense. We're going to deep dive into that a little bit more. But one of the things I would say, Hamby, down the road is I would still love to see the baseball state champs, if you did separate, almost play against each other in almost an extra tournament. Now, I don't think the calendar would ever allow for it, but in a perfect world, in baseball, you can't do this in all sports, but in baseball, you could take the 8 state champs or 7 state champs and put them into a bracket and find the overall state champ like they used to do in Indiana in basketball,
Right, and that's the thing that's exclusive almost about baseball. You really couldn't do that in any other sport because there's that big of a talent disparity. But your 1A or your maybe not 1A. That could be a little bit of a stretch, but it's not. You're going to get great teams at every classification and level. Coach, you look at the talent up and down. How would you go about, looking at, I mentioned strength of schedule earlier, but I kind of wanted to ask you this. We had a lot of talent at Providence, and we go up there against a slow lefty throwing 76 to 79, and then all of a sudden we're going to roll over 8 times that day. And you guys have an unbelievable. You just went up and down the roster, pitchers, but also your lineup. It's easy as kind of coaches just say, yeah, we're going to trust the guys that they're going to have quality at bats and handle it when a guy that's, you get your kryptonite up there who's that slow lefty. But how do you go about, you're going to face top arms, you're going to face 95, 98 sometimes, whatever, wherever, Jesuit, IMG, whatever, and then you're going to face, hunky-dory cambio slider at 72, and we got to be able to hit both.
Isn't that the beauty of high school baseball, right? That you're going to get to see both, sometimes in the same game. You could run up against a team that's number one. I wouldn't say we fully experienced that, but we just played Arnold in the preseason. They had a guy on the mound, Cooper Moss. He's 92, 94, just riding fastball. I mean, he was electric. He has good stuff going, and they come in relief. They switched to a lefty who's probably 78, 81, just flipping breaking balls in there. So in the same night, you might be having to do that. I think it's a challenge for you to be able to prepare for that, because everybody gets amped up for the big guy who might be a big Division I pitcher. But what does that look like you said, Hammy, when you get that crafty lefty? And I think they're can be just as effective in high school baseball, especially if you've got a team that can defend behind them and play with a good pace. Those guys can be just as challenging. And I think the biggest challenge is mentally. How do you give your mental attention that's needed to that guy to show up every night? Because we know the way this world works. They'll look over and see, he throws 78. And sometimes guys will think the game's over and nothing has happened. So we try to preach as much as we can. Like, you have to go win that pitch that's in front of you that night, whatever it is. And that's much easier said than done, especially with high school age kids. I can be guilty of it. You look over, you go, oh man, like this guy's got no chance, and you're in the 5th inning and it's a 2-1 ball game because you didn't lock in the way that you needed to and have a sound approach. And so that's the cool, unique challenge of high school baseball that I'm looking forward to for these guys this year.
Absolutely. Jonathan Murphy with us here from Trinity Christian Academy. Appreciate your time on No Gate Fees. Let me get you out of here, but I got 2 quick questions for you. Do you like the best-of-3 format?
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. I don't think anyone can have any complaints after the playoffs are done. Well, Brent, let me ask you a question. What do you got on the Final Four, still being 1-1?
Yeah, I am a little unsettled on that, but I do think because of the best-of-3, you end up with the best teams there. And I understand the problems logistically for the FHSAA to keep teams even longer. And the graduation and the calendar, like, I do think that's a real thing in high school, and you can't just dismiss that like you can in college. So ideally, I would still like to be best-of-3 in that spot. But I do think it's a challenge, and at least you end up, I believe, with the better team that year in the Final Four. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's really good. One of my coaches had an idea. I wish I could take credit for this, but I can't. He said run it like a college regional with the Final Four teams, and you could probably get it done in 3 days.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. And by the way, here's the other thing, Jonathan. Like, this is the thing that I said about last year. We don't care to go back down. We're traveling all over the place. Parents don't care to go back down and stay another day somewhere or stay overnight. Now, again, you've got to be able to financially do that from a state level. Like, I get it. But,
absolutely,
like, I don't think people mind it. Like, staying another day for that, to your point, or playing multiple games in a day to determine a winner, that's just that's the world everybody's been living in anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So anyway, but I do like at least we got to this point with the best-of-3. And it does take time. And keep in mind now, if it rains, you've got some logistic issues there too, especially if you have a couple, 3 days of rain. So there are real issues when it comes to that, and I get it at the administrative level. All right, you brought up this topic. What effect will the new 34-man rosters for Division I have on high school recruiting? How do you feel? Now, that's not a done deal, but most people are planning on it being a done deal, even though legislation is still up in the air. If this does happen, how do you see it impacting?
Yeah, I think playing Division I baseball straight out of high school is going to get really, really difficult. At mid-major, Power 4 level, all of those is just going to be a really unique challenge for high school kids. I think a lot of high school kids will need to reframe a little bit what their mentality around recruiting is and understanding how competitive junior college baseball is going to be, Division II baseball, NAIA baseball. They're already highly competitive as is with the transfer portal and all those things going on. But if you start doing the math on it, most Division I rosters go from 40 to 34. So I think there's 300-ish Division I programs. So times 6 right there. Is that 1,800? I do that right? Somewhere in that range. So there's 1,800 that are about to be looking for a home that are potentially Division I caliber players. So that's, as a high school senior, that's who you're competing with now, all those guys that don't have a spot anymore. And so it just becomes challenging. I don't want kids to necessarily get discouraged by that, but I think it's important to be aware of the changing landscape. And in this day and age of like social media and be able to post that, oh, I'm going here or there, which is awesome. Great institutions, and I'm happy with those kids. Any chance to play baseball at the next level is an unbelievable opportunity. Kids should be really proud of themselves if they get the chance to do that, because it's really difficult and it takes a lot of perseverance.
Yeah, you got it, man. It's so hard right now in any college sport to get there from high school. So I think this is going to be something to watch, and we're going through it. We're living through it. We don't know. All right, I'm going to leave you with this, man, and I'm not trying to elevate anything. So you don't have to give me any of the reasons why. But I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to say this about 1 million times this year. Why can't we get Trinity Christian and St. John's Country Day to play against each other? Like, I mean, it's the two best programs maybe in the area. Like, are we going to make that happen some point? Do I have to get a sponsorship to do this? Do we have to put it on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network? We got to make it like a big deal? I mean, are we going to ever get that?
That's a great question, Brent. I'll take that one offline. So.
Okay, I had to ask it. That's fine. I've been asking tough questions all fall, Coach. I mean,
Yeah. Tom does a great job. He really does. They have an unbelievable program, what he's built over there. They're one of the top teams, obviously, in the area and the state, and they have been now for a while. I think it was 2022. The team they had over there was one of the best teams to come through this area in the last 10, as long as I've been around coaching or playing high school baseball. That was arguably one of the best teams. I know they didn't end up winning it that year, but man, they had a really incredible squad. So he's doing a great job over there. And so, yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, or I'll see what I can do. You kind of leave you guys out of it. I'll see what I can do. And by the way, you might challenge that team this year with this 2024 squad. And we know the 2026 class is really good around here, too, just in general. So we'll talk more about that as the season goes along. Jonathan Murphy, good luck with that inner squad, man. You got a few more days to get ready for this season, but good luck. We look forward to watching you play this year.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you do, Brent.
You bet, man. Thank you. It's Jonathan Murphy from Trinity Christian Academy. They are loaded with talent, and that is a lot of fun ball to watch. I mean, these guys are I don't sit here and try to project people that are going to play in the big leagues, but you heard Jonathan say, hey, these are draftable guys. Like, it's a really an unbelievable collection of talent physically and just talent-wise. They are the real deal. So look forward to watching them against some of the competition, but it doesn't mean you go automatic. You don't do that in baseball. You don't automatically go. And they know that, and I thought Jonathan had a really good perspective on that.
That math he did, by the way?
What's that?
You caught that math that he did? That's much better than we do on our show.
See, we might have to hire him for the math part.
That's my AP macro teacher in senior year.
And by the way, thanks to Jonathan, too. And he didn't freak out about it when we took him off screen. We were trying not to keep him on too much. Obviously, the audio was fine. The shot goes in and out. The schools are not the best in terms of where we usually can get great reception for this stuff, but we're going to try it anyway, so we appreciate his time.
Brent, he's just texting me, I can't believe it, I left off Brady Harris.
Oh, did he leave Brady off? I actually had the list he had sent me too, but Brady is going to Florida.
Yeah.
So if you check this out, okay? Aiden Arnett, Virginia Tech. Braden McKee, Flagler. He was committed to the Uncommitted. Merrick Beamish, Dyersburg State. Aaron Watson, Virginia. He's the one that said he might have a chance to get drafted. Tyler Ellis, Florida. Brady Harris, Florida. Jordan Martinez, LSU. Gage Petrutz, I think is how he said his last name, Alabama. Ethan Wheeler, Florida. Parker Lowe, LSU. Christopher Reale, UNF. That's unbelievable. That is amazing on one high school baseball team. So, and hey, last night I was over at Providence. Providence has Ole Miss, Florida State, and Iowa commit on their staff. I mean, these are just two schools where we know we can go around the whole area and do that. amazing. Brent Martineau, Jason Hamby. Again, thanks to Jonathan Murphy. Maybe we will get that someday. We got to get that. I got to get ahead on the St. John's Country Day Trinity deal. All right? I don't know all the stuff on it, but I think they should be playing for the good of baseball in the area because they're always good. And so hopefully we can make that happen at some point. We're just not going to take a break. We got a lot to get to in the show. Speaking of Committed to the Uncommitted, presented by Nimick Buick GMC and our scholarship program that we do. Again, we're looking juniors and seniors. We want to revisit real fast. I'll give you an update on some of the Committed to the Uncommitteds from last spring's show in our softball and baseball world. And again, I know we just went heavy baseball because season is underway. Next week we will flip-flop a little bit here and there and go softball and baseball, but include both. But softball season is a week behind in terms of the regular season. This week is the preseason for the softballers. So that's why a little bit more heavy on the baseball side. Good to be joined by Jonathan Murphy. Obviously, it's preseason for him too still, though, because he doesn't have a game this week. But it shows you how much was changing, right? They thought there could be 28 games, and then the best out of 3, then they had to dial it back. There was a lot of that conversation. There's a lot to pay attention to for these coaches. All right, what do you got? Throw some people up there. For our Committed to the Uncommitted.
He mentioned McKee.
And he did mention McKee. And McKee was part of our program. And I love the fact that Coach, he helped us with Braden McKee and part of that program. He is going to Flagler next year, so that is cool for him. Cooper Kiker, he is down at St. Augustine, a really nice player, by the way, down there at St. Augustine. South Georgia State College, they're getting a lot of Jacksonville kids. There's some connections there. They're getting a lot of Jacksonville kids at South Georgia State College. He was a junior last year at St. Augustine, now goes into his senior year. Riley Hoffrichter, he's going to Central College of Central Florida, going over there with Marty Smith, and also with the big donkey from last year, Jake Meadows. Yep. So both of those big guys head over to the College of Central Florida. Meadows doing really well over there. Dom Petruno, he's also another Flagler guy from Inglewood. So we got a couple of, I like that Flagler's recruiting local. We've been screaming that for years and years. And they're recruiting the local guys. Dom Petruno from Inglewood, he will head there. They got a nice win last night, Inglewood did. Levi Pitchker, he last check was uncommitted. He played for CBU in the summer ball. He was part of that big win over St. John's Country Day Monday night to open the season. So if somebody else has an update on him, give it to me. But when I had looked it up last week, I feel like he was still uncommitted, but I feel like he shouldn't be. So let's see if we can get an update on that. Braden Harris, the same way. I have him as uncommitted, but if you know different, please let us know so we can update everybody. Where else are we going? We're getting into the softball world now. Kendall Mann. She went to play at ABAC up in Georgia, and she I think ended up at East Georgia State College. So she was a 4-year starter at Clay. Kendall Mann. Who else we got? Addison Brown from Paxson. She's not playing softball. She's at Georgia Southern, though, and so hopefully having a good time there, and that's okay, too. She decided not to play softball at the next level. Best thoughts with Kennedy Waymer, by the way, also out of Paxson. She has recently battled cancer and is overcoming that, and so our thoughts and prayers with her and her family. But the last update I had, things are a lot better from Coach Brown over there, so we give our best wishes to Kennedy. Lauren Abram, she is headed, she's Fleming Island. She's going to St. John's River. So she'll be a part of the St. John's River National Championship team, number 1 in Division II in JUCO. And Carly Dahl is also headed there as well. Creekside Knights, she's going to St. John's River too, and she's a good player. I've obviously watched a lot of Carly play. So St. John's River and Coach gets a good couple of local players out of here. So those were last year's Committed to the Uncommitted. If you have any updates on those, we'd love to keep sharing them. So we will do that here on the show. And now we want nominees in. We've already got some, but we want more. So please send them our way for softball, baseball. They can be juniors or seniors. We like to prioritize the seniors because they're running out of time, but we'll also have juniors as well since we know it's a funny time of the calendar, and we'll keep an eye on them for the next year or so, and hopefully a busy summer ahead where they get a lot of offers if they don't already have them. Brent Martineau, Jason Hamby. No gate fees presented by Nimick Buick GMC, Baker Sports, and Perfect Rack Billiards. And once again, I want to mention with Perfect Rack Billiards, they are going to give us a $100 gift card to give away to a Coach of the Week. So you can send those nominees in starting next well, we'll name one next week. So send them in as soon as possible. You can always send anything like that on Twitter, direct message me, or sports@actionnewsjacks.com, or maybe it's just putting in a message here during our show. We will collect anything that you have.
They also have the MLB package, which is becoming more and more increasingly rare over there at Perfect Rack.
Yeah, and they got that's a good place. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, open for lunch, by the way. Food is great. Folio Weekly, they were nominated and won a bunch of different categories over there at Perfect Rack Billiard. So go check them out, and we appreciate them. Big baseball guy, obviously, Corey Goff and their family, and appreciate him supporting baseball and softball in the area. And remember, Coach of the Week, $100. That's not a bad deal to go over there to Perfect Rack Billiards and have some lunch or dinner. All right? The new segment here, Action Sports Shacks on Campus. I thought this was really cool. And this is what I love about our local scene. We know kids are going to play at the next level. Well, if you know softballer Sophia Kardatsky, she played at UC and dominated, right? She was one of the most dominant players we've probably ever had come out of here. And state level-wise, she put her name in the record books all over the place. Well, she ends up going to play at USC Upstate, and what a weekend she had. She's hitting as well. I think I saw her in cleanup in the lineup, and she also made her pitching debut. There was some thought, at least behind the scenes from folks that I know, that she would start mostly as a hitter and they would work her in from a pitching standpoint.
That didn't take long.
And by the way, USC Upstate, a very good program in the softball field. Very good. They used to be in the A-Sun, no longer, but very good program. And she obviously did some good things in the fall on the mound. They got her going in the opening weekend against Bowling Green, and she ends up winning Freshman of the Week in the Big South. Struck out 10 in her debut, won the game, and also had a nice weekend at the plate. I think she hit over 500 at the plate, and she can really swing it and has a lot of power. But the cool part of this story for me was that she matched up in the game in her college debut against Morgan Beckham, coming out of Middleburg, obviously a very good softball program, and she pitches at Bowling Green. And obviously she lost that game. I think it was 6-4. So, but still, I'll forget about the results, forget about anything else. I just thought, how awesome is that? You get Sophia Kardatsky and Morgan Beckham, both freshmen, playing Division I softball, USC Upstate against Bowling Green, and they square off in the opener of their college careers against each other. That's pretty awesome. So highlight those two young ladies and wish them the best in their freshman season. And again, if you have someone that you'd like to see highlighted that's playing at the next level, baseball, softball-wise, let us know. Listen, I can find a lot of them myself because we know there are a lot playing at the next level. The Gators, JU, UNF, Florida State, loaded with them by itself. But we want to highlight some of the kids along the way. Did we do our job?
We did our job.
No, we didn't. We got to get to the polls.
The polls is the...
We got to get to the polls, and then we're getting out of here. So anyway, here's the deal.
Preseason
polls. What I really should have done on these polls is just put something in that's just crazy. Just put somebody like, what the heck are they talking about? Because people get wrapped up in that stuff so much. But we'll have the polls updated each and every week. Some of this was feedback from the coaches that I've already received. Do a little homework, and some of it's just common sense. All right, so we did just the baseball ones this week. We'll get our preseason poll for softball next week. And we're doing public school and private school. So we got Trinity Christian Bulls. We put Bishop Snyder up there, number 3. Nice team. I think people forget about Snyder.
Yep.
St. John's Country Day, which, sorry, I spelled wrong. Country Day. And we'll fix that. And Providence at number 5. Who else could be in there, right? Could be Bishop Kenny, Episcopal. We'll keep an eye on some of the other teams that certainly could make some hay in that, our high 5 power polls. And how about the public school side of things? And this one, we break up.
Way up in the air.
I'll tell you what, though. Clay, I think, is going to be really good. They've got a lot of arms. I love the job Coach does out there. I think they're always underrated. But Tokoi Creek is the one that's catching a lot of attention from the people that I've talked to. They've got everybody back. They added an arm, apparently, to some of the folks I've talked to, and they're going to be good. Creekside, they are loaded with arms. Will they be able to swing it enough? We'll find out. 2-1 game yesterday against Providence. Nice win. They play a really tough schedule. Oakleaf, I think people sleep on Oakleaf. They forget about him. Great job, and Espinoza's a really good player, and I don't think he's a committed player, by the way. He could be on our committed to the uncommitted list this year. And then Bartram Trail, watch out. They can swing it. And Luke Labby, a Florida commit. And they've got Cantona, and they've got some players now down there at Bartram Trail. So I think this is going to fluctuate. There's a really good chance the public school one can fluctuate probably more than the private school one. That's why we wanted to separate them, and then we'll put them all together at a couple of points in the season and see how it's shaken out. But like Jonathan Murphy said, anybody beat anybody on a Tuesday night here in Jacksonville. A lot of that's a pitching matchup. A lot of that's did you bring your A game. A lot of that's the ball finding the grass. And it should be a fun high school baseball season. Same goes to softball. We'll talk more about softball coming up next week as they get going with their season openers as soon as Monday. Good luck in all the preseason stuff before that. All right, Hamby, let's get out of here. Let's throw a commercial break in since we didn't for the first 55 minutes, and then we'll leave this thing. It's No Gate Fees 2025 season underway. Brent Martineau, Jason Hamby. And remember, sports at actionnewsjacks.com. Coach of the Week nominees, committed to the uncommitted. Find me somehow. Send it to that email, sports at actionnewsjacks.com. Let's make it happen and highlight some more kids in baseball and softball. No Gate Fees presented by Nimnick Buick GMC, Baker Sports, and Perfect Rack Billiards. Happy baseball and softball season, everyone. Can't wait to see you out there on the diamond.
The Tom Bush family of dealerships, they've been serving customers in the Jacksonville area for 55 years. They've been your go-to spot to get and stay on the road since 1970, and that's still the case here in 2025 and beyond, even if the cars have changed just a little bit. Check out the sleek line of vehicles of the future. That's right, electric vehicles. Tom Bush offers a full lineup of reliable electric cars with state-of-the-art service facilities. Like the new VinFast, Tom Bush is among the first dealers in the entire country to offer the VinFast, and let me tell you, this thing is sweet. The good folks at Tom Bush have all the info on charging, service, tax credits, and everything you need to keep your EV running smoothly. BMW, Mazda, Volkswagen, Mini, and the newly offered VinFast. There's something for everyone at the Tom Bush family of dealerships. Ready to join the Tom Bush family? Stop by the showroom or check out the inventory online at tombush.com.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From the start in 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jacks 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
Everyone loves a good game night. Here you don't have to be the host. You don't have to clean up. They bring the food and drinks to you, and you can watch whatever you want on the big screens. It's more than a card room. It's a night full of fun with friends. Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and now the newest location here in St. Augustine, right off 95 at exit 311. A brand new clean room, a full bar and menu, my favorite sushi in town. And I love the fries too. You don't have to just play poker at Best Bet. That's why I come over here to the table games and play one card poker. That's a pretty good card and a win. One card poker is like war as a kid, you against the dealer. And this isn't the only fun table game to play. A friendly staff, a lot of fun. It's a good night out at Best Bet Jacksonville, Orange Park, and the newest location in St. Augustine. You can be a serious player or a novice. It doesn't matter. If winning equals fun, you're a winner every time at Best Bet. I'll save you a seat, and I'll see you down here at Best Bet St. Augustine.